I remember it vividly, driving from Pittsburgh to Richmond, Virginia. And we would stop at that restaurant with that orange roof. And my father would get out of that 1956 Chevy and he'd walk to the door and he'd come back, the head hung down, shaking his head from side to side. No, we can't go in.
Joining me right now in studio, I'm so thankful that she was able to make some time for us. Debbie Norrell, lifestyle editor with the Pittsburgh Courier. Debbie, welcome to KDKA. Great to have you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
The things that we may have forgotten.
Sure.
Things that have happened that have been, that we deal with the benefits to this day because of what African Americans have done in this nation's history. What would you say stands out to you in that as we go through this list?
You know, there are so many, and one of the things that I want to point out is every week in the New Pittsburgh Courier, we publish This Week in Black History. So just in case you want to see things and know things, every week in the New Pittsburgh Courier,
well,
you can read some of the things that have happened this week in Black history.
I was inspired by that very column.
Well, you know, I kind of thought that you were. I
thought it was a fantastic piece. I think this is something that everybody needs to read, not only African Americans to be able to see what pride they should have amongst their own people, but also for everybody else outside of the African American community to be able to educate themselves and recognize the great contributions that were made, whether it was in sports or entertainment, sciences, literature, and so much more.
Absolutely. And right across from that, This Week in Black History is how you can get a subscription. It's right there. So with that aside, one of the things that I want to point out first and foremost is that Black History Month, which is really 365, but it used to be Black History Week. And I remember when it changed.
Okay.
I'm old enough to remember when it was Negro History Week. 1926 is when that was. Now, this was founded by Black historian Carter G. Woodson, and it was Black History Week. It became Black History Month, 1976. That's not that long ago, Mangina.
No, it is not.
It really isn't.
No.
When you think about it.
Yeah, so oftentimes one of the arguments is that, you know, the issues facing the African American community, that was so many years ago, hundreds of years ago. But the realities are, and we were just talking just a few minutes ago before we came on the air,
sure,
that the realities are we're talking about just a couple of decades ago, and then there are still people who are dealing with the ramifications of that to this very day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I shared with you when I came into the studio, I brought you your own list of 101 little-known Black history facts. And I was just going through this, perusing this myself, because it's interesting to read some of these things. Anyone who maybe just saw the movie The Post.
Yes.
Might remember Frank Wills, the Black security guard. He discovered President Nixon's cover-up. Now, if it hadn't have been for that black man, that black security guard, he turned history around.
Right.
Just by seeing that tape over that door, wondering, what in the world is going on here?
Mm-hmm.
Let me take the tape off. Makes his rounds, come back, the tape is back. Oh, this looks odd. And that's how everything unfolded.
Wow.
It's amazing.
It is. How about this? I like the one that's listed as number 101. In 1770, Crispus Attucks, whose father was African and mother was a Nantucket Indian, became the first casualty of the American Revolution when he was shot and killed in what became known as the Boston Massacre. I never knew.
Of course you didn't. You know, there's a lot of things that you would probably either have no interest in knowing or just things that are, you know, ordinary information to you, things that you never thought about not being able to go to a lunch counter and sit down in a 5 and 10. I don't know if you remember or not in the 5 and dimes or 5 and 10s downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
They had lunch counters.
Yes.
And there was a time when African Americans could not go and sit at that lunch counter and have a piece of pie and a milkshake. That was not possible. As I shared with you before we came on the air, I remember it vividly. Driving from Pittsburgh to Richmond, Virginia, and we would stop at that restaurant with that orange roof. And my father would get out of that 1956 Chevy and he'd walk to the door and he'd come back, the head hung down, shaking his head from side to side. No, we can't go in. We have to keep driving. There used to be picnic tables along the turnpike. And that's where we would sit and have our lunch. Mm-hmm. And my mother would pack a basket, fried chicken, potato salad, deviled eggs, and a salad. And we have lemonade in our big thermos. And it was like a treat. Every time I see Mommy frying chicken in around June or July, we know we're on our way to Richmond. We're going down south to see the family. And we thought that maybe now, some years had gone by, maybe we could go in this Howard Johnson's and eat. But no, we could not. You continue driving until you get down to your destination.
But it's also a beautiful commentary that your family was able to take what was horrible treatment and then spin it into something that was good as a family memory. That to this day, there's an aspect to where you regret how you were treated, but at the same time, it's a blessing to think about how that bonding opportunity for you and your family at the same time. We are wrapping things up with Debbie Norrell, lifestyle editor at the Pittsburgh Courier. All right, two more people we want to focus on before we wrap things up. First, real quick, Benjamin Bradley. Why is he worthy of note?
Well, he was a slave, and he was employed at a printing office and later at the Annapolis Naval Academy. Well, in the 1840s, he developed a steam engine for a warship. Now, he was unable to get his work. He was unable to get a patent for his work. Mm-hmm. So he sold it, and he used the proceeds to purchase his freedom. Now, you might think, well, isn't that odd? Why couldn't he get his work patented? There was a time when African Americans could not get patents. So if you might invent something,
right,
and you're black,
mm-hmm.
but you can't get a patent. We don't do patents for African Americans.
So he had to sell it to somebody else.
So he sold it to somebody else.
Wow.
And they get the patent. Now, there's a lot of go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I wish I had more time to be able to talk to you, but we're running out of time. One more pitch for you to be able to get people to find out more about the Pittsburgh Courier.
Well, the Pittsburgh Courier comes out every week, comes out on Wednesdays. So the new one is normally on the newsstands on Wednesday,
okay.
Thursday. And subscriptions are available. New Pittsburgh Courier, we're at 315 East Carson Street. You can go online to newpittsburghcourier.com. We've been around for over 110 years. One of the oldest African-American newspapers in the country.
Debbie, thank you very much for your time.
Read us.
Absolutely.